You were born with it. Creativity is your life. Everything that you do in whatever you do is all based on a creative mind. Even if you're sitting on the sofa watching a football game, your mind is creatively working. But when it wants to do something and needs to do something, well, you're either going to procrastinate or you're going to do an overdose with it. Creativity is an addiction. Unplugged, because we will always say yes to creativity. Totally uncut, because we all make mistakes. So turn it into a tool. This is Arroe Unplugged.
Hi, my name is Zoe. This is Defrag. Unlocking the mind, body, and soul. Hearing the inner creative child. This is Defrag.
Hi, Zoe. Welcome to episode number 4.
I would like to get to the point of direction.
That's a pretty big subject, because a lot of people don't want to understand, and they choose not to understand their own points of direction, or the points of direction that people are putting them on, and then they stand there going, how did we even get here? And so being aware of the point of direction is a very tough place to walk, because how are you personally going to act and react to the point of direction that you're presently standing in?
You struggle with this, and it starts with reading or watching the nightly news.
No, that's not true. It's reading the news the very second that I get up in the morning. It's reading the news while I'm trying to journal. It's reading the news while I try to get ready to go to work. It's reading the news while I'm at work. It's reading the news when I get home from work. It's reading the news, period. And then you sit back and you wonder, was I even reading the news, or was I reading somebody's point of direction?
Let's defrag. When you say point of direction, do you mean someone's opinion?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My dad used to tell me all the time, opinions are like people's butts. Everybody's got one. And here's where my dad used to stand out. He didn't give a crap about my opinion. He didn't want to hear my opinion. And the reason why is because his life was already surrounded by too many other people's opinions, and he didn't need to have the opinion of his child to get in front of where he was trying to make a decision. And so that's where I became aware of, watch what you say and how you say the things that you do get away with saying.
But you do offer opinion. When it comes to creativity, you give people your point of direction.
That's not really the kind of point of direction that I'm talking about. The point of direction of a news person, the anchor, the reporter, the way that you can go to CNN.com or Fox.com and you tap into a story because the headline sucked you in, and really all it is the anchor's point of direction. I mean, Rush Limbaugh was very guilty of that. He wanted to take his listeners to this area right here, and the only way that he was going to get people to get there was they had to believe in his personal power and his personal strength in making sure that, hey, look, you can trust me. But I don't talk about politics. I don't really like to talk about religion. You're not going to hear me talk about abortions. You're not going to hear me talk about things that really do have that ability to poison someone else's life. And so when you say that I have a point of direction in the way that I speak of creativity, it's only because I have lived this life as a creative person. I know of the silence that so many creative people have gone through. I mean, look at Valerie Bertinelli on Instagram this past week, where she openly discusses that she's not in a happy place. I love her for being that brave and that honest to say, look, you're not the only one. We can get through this as creative people, but we've got to be brave and honest enough to step through the walls to say, it's not what you think. It's not what you think.
If you don't like the news, why do you keep checking in with people who have a different point of direction?
Because I'm just like anybody else. I got to know. Even the paparazzi magazines, National Enquirer, the whole thing. I'll pick those babies up in a heartbeat and I'll read the stories. They can be as fake as all can be, but I've got to know. I've got to know. And that's what I'm trying to understand. And I'm trying to get beyond this mental sickness or this addiction. What am I trying to compare myself to make myself feel better? I mean, that's one of the things that Julia Cameron talks about in The Artist Way. Getting yourself away from those headlines. You've got to be able to create spaces of deprivation in order to build up your own life and to understand that you don't need that in order to survive and be happy on your own path.
See, you did it again. You gave people a point of direction. I thought you didn't like this.
No, what I'm discouraged with is when there is a news story and there are 8 different points of direction to that one story. What was the real authentic news story? It would be like a hurricane that's coming from Africa, and all of a sudden you've got 12 different weathermen telling you, well, it could do this, it could do that, it could do this. And you've got to base your life on whatever point of direction that has been thrown at you. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm not saying that, hey, look, If you're a creative person, you have to write. I'm never going to say that. Julia Cameron suggests that you write, and if you do write, this could happen to you. I'm not saying that if you study the Word of God, you must do this. We need to Bible thump it right into your skull. I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying, because you can take a Bible verse and have 8 different ministers, preachers, and pastors. They're all going to give you their own interpretation.
But you have your own interpretation as well.
Of course I do. We all do. And that's what I'm trying to kind of suggest here. Become more aware of what we're using as the point of direction. Become even more aware of where you're getting your point of direction from. It helps us understand that, hey, look, the step I'm about ready to take isn't necessarily, oh, it's all about me. It's about us, the community. Becoming aware of the points of direction and where they're coming from helps build a stronger foundation of decision making.
That's a joke. Ha ha ha. You can't make a decision. Admit it.
No, I can't. No, seriously, I can't. I can't make a decision because I get so many points of directions involved in what I'm doing with my decision making that it's like, well, what if, well, wait a second. If I did, no, wait, change my mind. What would happen if, and so, no, I do. I get mixed up on my decisions. I mean, that's like just this morning. At the store, there was one of those Christmas inflatables. Usually sell $85 to $100. It's 75% off. And my wife asked me, would you like to have this? And it was like, I'm going 75% off. How much is that? It's only going to be like $17. I know I couldn't make a decision. It's 75% off, but was it just more trash to put with our treasure?
You were trying to change your point of direction.
If I'm going to change my point of direction when it comes to watching news, taking in news, to get away from paparazzi magazines, if I'm going to change that point of direction on what I'm bringing into my direction, I've got to change the point of direction of all things in my life, including quit hoarding. Quit hoarding everything because it's 75% off. I've got to become more aware, and it's mind-blowing that this game of awareness and mindfulness, because all of a sudden you start realizing the realness of where you presently stand. Now, how are we going to correct this situation? How are we going to take that point of direction and put it in the right place and time?
Let's defrag. Is this making you miserable? Are you becoming a grumpy old man?
I hope not. And I'm serious about that because my stepfather was a grumpy old man. And growing up in his house was not a fun place to be. I mean, when I was 17, I couldn't wait to become 18 because once I was 18, I was out of there. And not only that, I was going to get married and I was going to get on with my life because I was in a situation where a grumpy old man had taken over our lives as small children, and he stayed a grumpy old man that entire time. I'm very much aware of what a grumpy old man is and what a grumpy old man can do to those that are around them in those circles. So I'm very much aware of that. And so even today, I take great notice of what triggers me. And the thing is that I don't hoard those thoughts inside of me. I don't take them inward. I share it with the people that have caused that trigger. And I say, I just want you to know, I just want you to be aware that when you do this or when you say this, when you don't do this, you trigger me. You trigger something on the inside of me. And I don't want to be that grumpy old man that's holding something very tightly because he doesn't want someone to feel or even see that it's really making him weak in the knees.
Do you have the strength to talk about one thing that triggers you?
No, I'm not going there. See, and that's a good example of your point of direction, Zoe, is not going to come in my direction. I'm not going there. I'm not going to bring up something that's going to trigger me because it will trigger me and then I have to carry that weight. But that's what I mean by you have to be aware of how people trigger you. What is their point of direction? And basically, what is their purpose and reason for the season they're about ready to create? Is it more about them? Or is it about you becoming a part of them so that they have a stronger army to do what it is that they need to do with their points of direction? So no, I'm not going to take you there. I'm not agreeing with your point of direction.
I'm not agreeing with your point of direction.
Okay, that's fine. We don't have to. There's nothing that says that we have to agree, nor do we have to agree to disagree, because I think that right there is like a seed that's planted inside a forest that says, hey, look, that's a point of direction. So that's fine. I respect your place and space upon this page. And that's what defragging is all about.